Hello everyone, Rob Guest from football.london here and welcome to the latest episode of Gold Guest Talk Tottenham, sponsored by NordVPN. Joining me as ever, it's Alasdair Gold. Ali, you well?
I am, thanks. Hope you are too. I think I'm well adjusted now. Well, not well adjusted, but I'm adjusted back to the UK time zones. I was a bit of a zombie in the last podcast, so apologies to anyone having to listen to me ramble on in that one. Well, you have to listen to me ramble on, I guess, in this one as well with Guesty. But yeah, it's been a surprisingly busy couple of days. I think we kind of anticipated we were maybe just going to do a bit of a season review in this one, but we're kind of going to have to push that off a little bit, I think, because there's been quite a bit of activity in and around Tottenham in the last few days, which gives us loads to discuss.
Yeah, plenty of transfer related stuff as well. I mean, it's only over a week or so since the Premier League season came to an end with Spurs winning at Sheffield United, but Spurs have already strengthened the squad ahead of next campaign, and that is due to the arrival of Timo Werner on a season-long loan this time. Joined back in January from RB Leipzig, Spurs did have an option to sign him on a permanent basis for around 15 million. I think it was a deal a lot of people were debating whether or not Spurs should do it in the summer, but they've managed to strike a new loan agreement with RB Leipzig, and once again there's an option in there to make the move permanent for 8.5 million. Good deal for you, Ali?
Yeah, I think it is. Look, I know it's such a divisive deal. I say divisive. It's very difficult because again, it's social media where most of the noise comes from. We don't know kind of what the main view on it is from those out there in the world. I think we've been pretty consistent in the way that we've kind of spoken about Timo Werner, that he does a lot of what Postecoglou wants him to do. It's kind of what it boils down to, really. And if you were able to get a deal for him that was very cheap, then as a squad kind of member for the season ahead, as long as he's not the final answer for the kind of the attacking positions, as long as he is one of the options, I think it's a good deal. I do. If you look at it as Brian Hill heading off, even Perisic obviously is already set to leave at the end of his contract, going to Hajduk Split, of course. But if you look at him as, let's say, the replacement for Brian Hill, I think that makes sense. 28-year-old Champions League winning player. Look, of course, there's downsides to his game. His finishing needs to be a lot better. But in terms of the just classic Postecoglou, I want you to get down the wing, cut the ball into the 6-yard box. He does it over and over and over again, and he showed that. And I think maybe his injury towards the end of the season perhaps gave people even more pause. Everyone gets frustrated with players that are injured. It's maybe had he gone on for the rest of the season and contributed more, maybe it made been an even clearer case for people. But I guess the aspect of, I mean, the price is just, we were talking before about having 15 million maybe being quite a good deal if he continued to contribute. To have actually got that down to just a loan now for another season, and the clause now is all the way down to 8.5 million pounds because he's only got a year left on his contract at the end of this loan spell. I just think it makes sense. You've got so many games next season. You've got Europa League matches to come. This is a guy that's been there and done it. And I hope, my hope is that when it comes to the finishing aspect of it, a bit of confidence, a pre-season under his belt under Postecoglou, maybe that fixes itself. This isn't a guy that has never known how to score goals. He was prolific at Leipzig. That was why Chelsea bought him. He was one of the most feared forwards in the European game when he was in his early 20s. So I do wonder if it just needs something to get him back into that. Maybe he's had too many years of people going, oh, he's going to miss that. And maybe that just starts to mentally get into your head. But I actually think in terms of what he produces, and I'm not going to go into them all before, but we've spoken on a previous podcast episode about this. He topped, for his 12 matches before his injury in the Premier League, he topped a lot of the metrics in exactly what Postecoglou wants. Beating his man, getting the ball into the 6-yard box. Offensive duels, he would win them. He was top for that and stuff like that. So I think it's one of those deals where, is it like the biggest, most ambitious deal in the world? No, of course not. Is it a squad building move? Yes. And that's kind of what you need for next season. I don't really have any issues with it. I think you will I think you can fairly judge it, I suppose, at the end of the window. And if they get to the end of the window and he was the only kind of winger addition, maybe you can have some gripes with it. I absolutely believe that. However, the indication seems to be that Spurs are looking to bring in another winger and also a striker. And if that's the case, then you've kind of done exactly what you needed, as long as, those two are good additions, and there's no reason to doubt on previous recruitment under Postecoglou why they won't be. So, yeah, I've got no issues with it. I mean, the other argument that some people come up with, it's blocking young players. I don't think a 1-year loan is blocking players. I don't believe that personally. Let's say Mikey Moore, for example. I know a lot of people getting very excited about him right now. He's 16 years old. He's a 16-year-old boy who hasn't even this season played any under-21s football. His exposure, I think he got 2 games off the bench last season for the under-21s. His exposure in the couple of minutes he's had for the first team has been his first real exposure to men's football. So I'm sorry, but you're not really blocking his path right now. He'll get minutes next season. I think he will. I think he'll win the cup games and things like that. I think giving him an extra year to continue to develop while still getting those training times and bits of minutes, it's absolutely fine. That's the right way to do it. We get very excited, as included, about Wonderkids and things like that. But I do think, I don't think this is blocking anyone's path, to be honest with you. The only thing I would say, and I guess people would have a gripe about this as well, is the wages. Certainly looking at the German reports, it looks like his full wages are going to be covered, which I think, looking at the numbers they were putting out, are about 160,000 a week, which is a lot for a squad player. Of course it is. But then, I don't know. I always find it quite funny that people are very, they're not interested in the money when it's sign that player, put the big money in. And then suddenly when it's wages for someone that they don't want, it's, that's too much to pay. And it's kind of like, well, you can't have it both ways kind of thing. If you either don't care about the money or you do care about the money. What I would say, if we're talking about money, a loan deal does not take anything out of the transfer budget for next season. And that as well is another kind of quite important thing for this summer ahead. What do you make of it all?
I think it's a smart move, to be honest. I think, especially to get him on another loan deal, because the question mark over the past few weeks was, are Spurs going to pay 15 million to sign him or not? And then Ange left it open a bit, really. I think, was it you who asked him out in Australia what was going to happen with Timo? And I think to get him on another loan deal, it's a smart move, especially because there's going to be so many games next season in terms of the Europa League. You got 8 group games, potentially another 7 games if you go all the way to the final. Spurs, fingers crossed, will go, further than the first round of the Carabao Cup this time, and then hopefully a few more games in the FA Cup to come as well. And there's going to be injuries, of course, it always is over the course of the season. So I think it's a good move. And let's be honest, Timo did well in his time at Spurs, impacted things in the final third, chipped in with goals and assists. Yeah, his finishing is a bit erratic, but Postecoglou obviously sees something in him that he wants him at the club. And I don't think we've seen the best of him yet in the Tottenham shirt. I think there's even more to come from him. And he was also missed, I think, in the final weeks of the season, just as another option. And yeah, let's be honest, he might not be a starter week in, week out for Spurs, because you'd imagine Son's going to be lining up on the left with either Richarlison or a new striker through the middle. The ability to bring someone on like Werner in the last 20 minutes or so, someone who's skillful, got bags of pace, can cause chaos, it's just a good weapon for Spurs to have. So I think to get him in on another loan is just a really, really, shrewd bit of business by the football club.
Yeah, and I mean, look, with no disrespect to Brian Hill, because I do still think he'll have a very good career, and I think he's got to develop and just get game time. But if anyone asks you, who would you kind of expect to have more of an impact coming off the bench, him or Timo Werner? It's Timo Werner every time, and we've seen it. And he's just got a little bit more about him, and in terms of kind of hitting the ground running in the Premier League. And I think that's the big thing as well. If Postecoglou's looking to make a bigger impact next season, he has this kind of lofty hopes. He needs players that can hit the ground running, and to have already spent 4 or 5 months or so in the Postecoglou way, and then have a pre-season on top of that, and have a couple of years knowledge of the Premier League as well, it just all it just makes sense. It does. And the other thing about it is, 5 days or so before he was announced, Postecoglou said there's a transfer plan in place, which I'm really comfortable with. This is part of that transfer plan. We can't say back the manager and then part of the plan that he's really happy with gets done straight off the bat, way before even the transfer window is properly kind of opened. That's part of it. You can't then say, no, back the manager, but not with the players we don't want. It doesn't kind of work like that. I think it's absolutely fine. Like I say, as part of a bigger picture. And I still think the other winger they'll look at will be a versatile one, can play both sides as well. So there will be further competition for the left. There's Manor Solomon still to come back from his injury, still kind of wait to see exactly what happens with him going forward. And I think we all want change and we all want next level stuff, and I get that. But I do think people are kind of underrating what I actually feel Timo Werner can do next season. I mean, what did he get? 5 goal involvements in those 12 games, and that's not including the own goal he set up against, who was it? Oh, he played a ball across. It was one of the last.
Can't remember.
Yeah, people tell us in the comments. Let us know. But essentially, it's kind of 6 goal involvements in 12 games. And if that's in his first 12 Premier League matches with the club, just think what he'll do when he's properly settled in and fully in the swing of what he's meant to be doing. I think he'll be absolutely fine. And I have a feeling, I hope, that come the end of next season, you and I are doing this podcast and we're talking about, that was one of the shrewdest moves of the summer, wasn't it? Getting Timo Werner in for a loan deal, which I think the German media is saying about 4.2 million is the loan fee for the season. And it's a bit like, I think especially when that's not coming out of the transfer budget, it's like a separate kind of thing. I think it works for me, but hey, what do I know?
So are you saying Timo Werner, PFA Player of the Year, 12 months time? Is that what you're hinting at?
That would be funny. That'd be great, because it would mean Spurs had an amazing season. But maybe not quite to that degree, but certainly with the amount of games. And we've spoken about this before, the rotation angle. Everyone wants a stronger squad, but but they always want the strongest 11 to play in every single match. It's this kind of funny paradox. But if you're going to be playing Europa League football, you're going to have to either rotate your team on the Thursday or the Sunday. You just can't play the same 11 every time. And if you've got as your, let's say, backup, who knows? He may work himself into the position to be the first choice on the left or right, maybe. But if you've got someone like Timo Werner, who is, let's say, your backup for now, that's a strong, experienced backup to have there, and to be able to rotate and not feel like the quality has dipped massively at all. It's a good player.
I know everyone wants big money transfers all the time, but I think you've got to be, a bit realistic. I think this summer it's about adding even more quality to the squad, and they are doing that with Werner. Spurs aren't going to go out and spend 50 million on one winger, 50 million on another, when they've spent 50 million on Brennan Johnson, start of last September. So it's a good move, and the money that could have been spent on the winger can go towards another position to bring in another player. So I think it's a good move. Sticking on the subject of transfers, Richarlison's made his feelings clear on his plans for the upcoming season. He took to his Instagram stories, I think it was Tuesday evening, basically said any talk of a move away is fake news. He plans to stay in England next season, and he's also mentioned that he's sacrificed his holidays, to get back to full fitness in Sao Paulo ahead of returning to pre-season training. So I'm sure that'll have gone down well with Ange Postecoglou and all at Tottenham. And for you, the right thing, keeping Richie at the club?
I don't have to ask you. Yes, I think so. Look, if there was a huge offer came in and the Spurs were to get their money back, would they have a look at that? Of course they would. I think they would. I think it's just kind of a natural thing. But what I would say about Richarlison is, when he was fit and available, I think he did a good job for Spurs. I think his goal output in that time showed that as well. I think he was starting to make real inroads into the Postecoglou system and his place within it. My issue mainly with him is the amount of games he missed through injury. I do think that was too much. And his unavailability for certain portions of the season in his first 2 years hasn't been great. And that's, I guess, that frustration is mainly because of the good job he was doing when he was in the team. He was a focal point. Postecoglou kind of liked what he was bringing to the team. He was getting a good understanding with players like Brendan Johnson. So yes, I think if you were to sell him for less than the 60 million or so you got him for, I would maybe question, well, could you replace him adequately? Again, a bit similar in the Werner thing is you've got a player who knows the Premier League inside out, is very effective in the Premier League. Can you replace someone like that as easily as, oh, yeah, well, I'd sign that player from, let's say, La Liga. I'd play that player from the Eredivisie, whatever. That's great, and they may be very exciting, but there's still the question marks over whether they can actually perform in the Premier League, and Richarlison can. So, yeah, I think that's a good thing for him to come out with in terms of making it very clear to the fans he wants to stay. I mean, technically, he did say the UK, so, Everton might sign him back if you can suddenly find 60 million from somewhere. I'm not sure you can, but you never know. You have to sell a certain centre back maybe to get that. But yeah, I've got no qualms with. Again, we talk about the squad. If you want a strong squad next season, having Richarlison, I think, as one of your striker options, not the only striker option, but one of them, I think contributes to a strong squad.
Yeah. For me, I know some have said sell him this summer, but for me, it just seems a bit daft because I think Tottenham are a better team when Richarlison's in the side. And I think that's been clear a number of times last season. You can see the impact he had on the games against Arsenal and Liverpool when he came off the bench. And then he had that.
I was going to say, if he's fit for the last few games of the season, I think they're top 4.
Yeah, probably right. Yeah. And look at how he was playing from the start of December onwards to start of February. It was 9 goals in 8 successive Premier League games. That's the best period he's had in the Tottenham shirt. Yes, injuries, have played the part, but if you're going to be injured, it's part and parcel of football, I suppose. And I mean, there's been plenty of times when Harry Kane was injured, weren't there? Those ankle injuries, they kept him out for a decent period of time. And
true, he contributed more though.
Oh yeah. Of course. But what I'm saying is, injuries are part and parcel. And if you are going to be injured, then, take yourself out of the team because that's the best thing for the team as a whole if you're injured rather than playing through the pain if you're not 100%.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I do. I just think it's never, I suppose, a good look if in your first couple of years you've missed a chunk of the games already, haven't really kind of been able to convince the fans fully, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about Romero in a minute. He's probably had his best season for Spurs and most consistent season in what was his 3rd season at the club. So there's no reasons why Richarlison can't do exactly the same. And also, bringing in another striker, competition pushes people on as well. He that should only spur Richarlison to be better next season as well. And yeah, I guess it's just a little issues that he's had, and sometimes it seems to be the same issues that kind of keep reoccurring for him in terms of injuries. So yeah, getting to the bottom of them, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of Romero, then he's been speaking in his homeland about his form at Tottenham, and then also about a potential future transfer. He was asked about interest, wasn't he?
He was. I want to get the quotes right because there is a piece that's actually just probably going out now as we're recording this. So he was on D Sports Como Te Va, which I'm presuming is an Argentinian show. And he was asked, about transfers or the potential of a transfer. And he just said, the truth is I'm fine. For now, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about preparing myself these days. And he also said in a later quote, I'm very happy to be in this present. The thing that he always adds, and every footballer adds this, is the things that come up at the moment, in the moment, are obviously always analysed, but I'm not thinking about the future. So it's kind of pretty much definitive, but as every footballer does, he's added on that little classic. Well, if a decent offer comes in, we'll look at it. We have to, which is true and it's realistic. Of course it is, but it's just like it would be lovely if I think all Spurs fans would just want him to say, "No, not going anywhere. I'm here," which essentially kind of guess is what Richarlison's done. But no, it was quite good, and he spoke about the season as well. He said, even though the group achievements haven't been the best, or we didn't expect to end like this, the group level for the coach's first year, he has been good in all lines. We have to keep wanting more. Individually, I'm very happy with this beautiful season that I've had. I think I've gone from the lowest to the highest. Having gone to the Premier League has already been a very important achievement for me because I knew I could grow a lot. The first season I had ups and downs, injuries, the adaptation wasn't easy. The second I adapted, and I think this, which was the third, was one of my best seasons I've ever had. So praise for Postecoglou in there. Praise for, I guess, the part that he's played in him having one of the best seasons of his career to date. And also quite a strong sense of, I want to be here next season. I want to be part of what's happening at this club. He's got 3 years left in his contract. And I think he has had a very consistent season. I mean, I look back, he only missed 2 Premier League games through injury. The only suspension, obviously, was the Chelsea suspension. Yes, it was daft, but that was it. And he missed those 3 games because of that. Other than that, he was there and scored 5 goals as well from the back. Very big contribution there. I think his passing was a big contributing factor as well in the Postecoglou system, getting the ball moving quickly and breaking the lines. Yeah, what did you make of Romero's season?
Excellent. I thought he was certainly one of Tottenham's standout players. We will discuss player of the season and that our players of the season in the next pod, but for me, he's certainly in the top 3 for Spurs this season. I think he's just been an absolute rock at the back. He's made for Postecoglou's system, really. I think it suits him down to the ground, and I'm sure there will be some transfer interest in the future in him because he's such a talented player and he's, showcased that on the greatest stage of all in the World Cup, helped Argentina win the World Cup final in 2022, always done well. It wouldn't surprise me if like Real Madrid come in for him at some point.
Yeah, and of course, when that happens, you've got decisions to make. Of course you do. One of the biggest clubs in the world do. But right now, I think he's really maturing in his play. I think Postecoglou making a vice captain was a master stroke at the start of last season. That was such a clever thing to do. It removed a lot of the Chelsea aside. It removed a lot of the opportunity for him to be reckless. I think he had to think about everyone else as well, and I think just naturally becoming a dad he is. I think I'm pretty sure he announced they're having another child as well. So that's just a natural part of life as well. I think that helps you mature off the pitch and on it as well. I think Romero's had a terrific one, and I think next season he's going to really want to push the claims of he's a World Cup winner, and he wants to push the fact that he's one of the best in the Premier League, because I think maybe people outside Spurs see him as this slightly kind of headstrong, reckless South American defender, whereas actually he's a very, very talented defender. And I think as he and Van der Ven's partnership grows, you've got Dragishin developing alongside him. You'll have another centre-back coming in as well. That defence in front of Vicario could be pretty tasty, I think, next season.
I think it's probably just about watching him on a consistent basis to get, a true perspective of what he is like as a player, because I've all seen certain clips when he's, gone in rash in certain challenges and that, and the amount of red cards and bookings he's picked up before in his first couple of seasons at the club. I think if you watch him, on a consistent basis, you'll see there's an excellent defender there, and there's probably only a handful of Premier League defenders who are better than him at the moment. He's certainly up there, got to be in top 5, should we say?
I think so. Who had the better season for you, him or Van der Ven?
Tough on that. It depends.
Which is weird for a club that had so few clean sheets. Their 2 centre-backs were actually really good when they were playing.
Depends how you look at it, really. I mean, you could look at it from the perspective that Van der Ven's come in first season, taken to the Premier League like a duck to water, not looked out of place, and just got better and better. Romero, just excellent on the whole, contributed with goals. Again, likes to play his part in the final third. Maybe not as much as when there was 3 at the back for Spurs, but I'd probably just go with Van der Ven, just ahead of Romero.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think in terms of consistency and availability, of course, I think Romero's there, but Van der Ven is, he is pretty special, and that's what makes it so exciting. Dragishin as well. I think Dragishin is going to be a massive addition. I don't think we've even scratched the surface of what he's going to bring to Spurs. So that's a very good foundation for a defence to have.
Some more news ahead of next season. Brandon Austin signed a brand new contract at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. 5-year deal. Quite surprising because the deals he signed previously, and the same with Alfie Whiteman, always seems to be 2 years. So when that was announced, 5-year deal, that was quite surprising. Got to maybe hint at the fact that he's number 2 going forward. Maybe not this upcoming season, but certainly the long term.
Yeah, it sounds like that. Seems like that's what the challenge is for him. Obviously, we reported on this a month ago or more that there had been positive talks between Brandon Austin and the club about extending his deal, which was coming to an end this summer. I agree. I don't think we expected it to be a 5-year deal. That is a big kind of signal of intent for a player who's 25 and hasn't played a game for the club yet, a senior competitive game. So it does. I think it does lean towards that they're saying to him, right, this is your season now. He was on the bench 18 times last season. This is your chance now. Fraser Forster is obviously is in the latter stages of his career. Even as a goalkeeper, he could still play a fair few years more, but probably as a top level goalkeeper. And also, I still am not entirely sure about the Postecoglou system, how well he's going to be able to handle that and the rushing off the line and the things like that are required. But certainly he's a very experienced kind of keeper. I just wonder whether over the course of this season, he does become the number 3, the guiding figure, like Brad Friedel was back in the day for Spurs, and whether Austin is then given the chance to step up. Because I did think it was quite interesting in the friendly out in Melbourne. I think we assumed Vicario was going to play, which he didn't at all. And then when he wasn't playing, you kind of thought, okay, well, it's one half for Austin, one half for Whiteman. But it wasn't. Brandon Austin played probably 75 minutes, something like that. It was quite a bit of the game. And then Whiteman came on at the end, which again maybe signalled an intent to just we'll see in pre-season as well, just to give him more game time and more comfort behind the squad. Seems quite popular. When the deal came out, like all of the Instagram, all the first team stars were kind of underneath there, praising him and everything. But obviously Postecoglou and Rob Birch, goalkeeping coach, have seen stuff there that they believe he can go forward and have a bigger kind of station than he had in the past. He's club trained. That's what they need going forward as well. I'm interested to see what happens with Alfie Whiteman, who's got a year left in his deal, whether this means they look for a loan for him, which are not the easiest things to find for a goalkeeper, or whether a decision is made over his future. I don't know. But you would think very much that he's kind of now 4th choice. But yeah, for Brandon Austin, it's about kind of cracking on now, I suppose. It's all very easy for people to say you're 25 years old, you should have gone off and made a career for yourself somewhere else now. It's not how goalkeepers works. There's so few opportunities for goalkeepers in the game. I still know as some of the young keepers that have left Spurs in the last couple of years and they're struggling for a club. I'm actually thinking this summer of doing a piece on a few of them just to almost try to help them find a new club if there's any way you can push their name out across places, because they have left the club and they have struggled to find any kind of decent level of football to play at. And I guess that is a fear for these keepers as well. But yeah, we'll see what happens with him going forward. But a 5-year deal is definitely a signal of more importance within the squad than just we need to keep him around type thing.
I know you mentioned loaning Whiteman out. Austin would be the one I'd loan out, just because he's 19 senior appearances to his name, and potentially if he's going to be number 2 in the long run, Spurs could be calling on Austin to come in with next to no competitive appearances to his name. His last competitive appearance was 2021 for Orlando in the MLS. So for me, Austin's the one who needs loaning out if he's going to be long-term number 2.
Yeah, that's a great shout. I hadn't really thought about it that way. Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. Absolutely. As long as you're comfortable, I suppose, with Postecoglou is if Vicario was to get injured with the options there. But that's a great shout. I mean, I didn't even mention the very talented young goalkeepers they've got just underneath, waiting to kind of come through. Josh Keeley has a terrific season at Barnet. He's with the Republic of Ireland under-21s, but he's actually been called into the senior squad to train with them at this time, which is great experience for him. So he's one to look out for. He's only 21, 22 years old. Luca Gunter has had a terrific season with the under-21s as well. Saw him the other day at the playoff final for the under-21s, and he was, someone to say, he made one save, a reaction save from a deflected shot that was just remarkable. And that's pretty much how he's been in recent weeks, or for a lot of the season, to be fair. Kind of Josh Keeley started off the season for those under-21s, and when he left for Barnet, Luca Gunter kind of took on the mantle. And yeah, 2 very talented keepers there. But that's a great shout on Austin. I guess if you've got a 5-year deal, that does give you the latitude for maybe a loan move, as long as I can find a good one. Great shout there, Mr. Guest. I like that.
Right, before we discuss Tottenham being crowned Premier League 2 champions in a minute, Ali, do you want to let everyone know about the benefits of using NordVPN?
Of course. You very well know my feelings on NordVPN and how much I've been able to use it, how I used it most recently when Spurs went out to Melbourne as well, to be able to keep an eye on various things, watch various things that I would normally watch but can't normally when you go abroad because of those pesky restrictions when you cross borders. And we're still having people telling us how much it's helped them and how useful they've found it. We'll no doubt get it again this summer when everyone heads off on their summer holidays. We always do each year, and that's lovely. It makes us, it kind of shows us exactly why we do it and why we have this partnership with them, because that they definitely it's a great service, it's a great setup, and what I always say, NordVPN is the fastest VPN in the world. No buffering, no lagging, and you can stream your favorite shows from anywhere in the world without your bandwidth throttling. It's great if you wanted to, let's say, book flights from another country. You can do it that way because it's just got this clever idea where you just set your device to thinking it's in another country, so you don't have to be wherever you are. It lets you travel the world just within the palm of your hand, I guess. It's terrific. So it means you can you're paying out for Nord, yes, but you're actually saving money overall because of the things that you can get using it. And it's also helps from a security aspect if you're using public Wi-Fi as well, to keep a lot of what's on your phone all locked up. There's a whole host of other benefits. I'm doing it a disservice just with a few things I've said because there are so many. If you go to their website and honestly sign up, give it a go. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/Gold Guest. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. And of course, you're helping support our podcast every time you go there and sign up. The link is in the episode description box in case you just missed it there.
Right, so on Sunday you were at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium to watch the under-21s crowned Premier League 2 champions. 3-1 win over Sunderland. Will Lancashire getting a couple of goals to his name. George Abbott as well. They've been excellent over the course of the season. This is probably exactly what they deserved come the end of it.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was such a great occasion. I didn't actually get the final crowd figure, but they were expecting 4,000 or 5,000 there, and it felt like that. It felt like most of the lower kind of levels of the West Stand were full from end to end. It was brilliant. Wayne Burnett's got this attacking style. I think Postecoglou coming in has been perfect, really, for Wayne. Wayne Burnett likes to play with a real forward thrust to his teams, and that's exactly what they've done. They swept to the top of the table. Weirdly, obviously, the way this new format works, that doesn't mean you're champions. It just means, well done, you get a trophy for that. But here's this other playoff system you've got to get through to still win it all, which they did. And they had a lot of games towards the end of the season that suddenly piled up. But they got through it, beat Sunderland 3-1 on the day, Will Lancashire got a couple of goals. George Abbott finished it off with a nice little calm touch, actually. Took the ball out of a little kind of scramble in the box and lifted it into the roof of the net. And like you say, it is just rewards for everything they've done. And the remarkable turnaround. This team was relegated last season, but they didn't actually get relegated because of this change in league format. So it became a 26-team league, and they finished on top of it. They were unbeaten for most of the season, a big old chunk of it as well. Scored a lot of goals. Some real... For Wayne Burnett, it has been such almost like a perfect season for an academy coach, because he's had 2 trophies in the bag. He's developed so many players. He's seen Jamie Donnelly get into the first team, make 3 Premier League appearances and FA Cup appearances. He's seen Mikey Moore, who technically hasn't even played for him this season, but has had training sessions with him, and he did work with him at a couple of games last season. He's seen Mikey Moore get involved. He's seen Iago Santiago on the bench for the first team. He's seen Alfie Dorrington on the bench for the first team. It's been such a kind of an important season, and then on top of that, you get the winning, you get the trophies, and a real sense of accomplishment. Because that is the thing about academy football, is that you see people kind of, sometimes they'll judge it on whether they've won trophies, which isn't really the right way to look at academy development. And sometimes they'll judge it on players developed, but sometimes they will only look at superstars developed. So people will say, oh, we haven't had anyone since Harry Kane. And that's not true. There have been a lot of kind of young players that people maybe don't understand how difficult it is to get from an academy to a first team of a Premier League club, especially a Premier League club that is, looking to be in European competition week in, week out. It's so difficult, that step, which is why even when we talk about young Mikey Moore at 16 and how exciting he is and how wonderful it is seeing what he's doing for the England under-17s at the European Championships. But still, then the next step into Premier League football is a huge one. It's a massive one. So if you can develop someone to even get a couple of minutes in a first team in a Premier League team, you've done incredibly with that player. That's brilliant. That's one thing. But also, maybe people don't notice all the players they develop that go on and have Football League careers or go on and have careers elsewhere in European competition. Because honestly, the highest percentage of what happens to academy players is they drop out of the Premier League football. They don't even turn up sometimes in any kind of top level competition. I used to, back in the day, cover non-league football way back many years ago. The amount of Premier League academy dropouts I used to talk about and interview each week in, week out, and they played for these non-league teams. So yeah, to get someone to the pinnacle is huge. So massive congratulations to Wayne Burnett and what he's done in his staff. Also Stuart Lewis, the under-18s, Bradley Allen as well. They've had a terrific kind of season of development as well. Obviously last year they got the 2 trophies, which maybe kind of people again look at that and think, wow, but actually as a development season they've had a terrific one as well, despite some injuries. And you've seen players like Tyrese Hall come into the under-21s, and we saw him in Melbourne. That's because of the first half of the season and last year's work with him in the under-18s. It is all part of a process, and they very much see each other as a unit, the academy coaches. It's great. I got to speak to Wayne Burnett after the game, and he spoke really well. I mean, have a look on football.london, the full interviews on there. He spoke about Jamie Donnelly, spoke about Tyrese Hall, spoke about Will Lancashire as well. I actually spoke to Will Lancashire after the game as well. He's a really nice young man. He is. He's only 19, but he is a big old unit. He really is. You can see how physically this guy has racked up 32 goals this season. It's been superb. And just speaking to him about the next steps, because wasn't in that Melbourne squad, which was maybe a surprise for a few of us, especially with Richarlison out injured. And what he's got to do next. Again, that interview's on football.london. But yeah, brilliant year for all of them. We'll maybe, when we talk about do the season review for the first team, we'll do maybe a bit more of a season review for the under-21s as well, and the young players, and who kind of has a future and who maybe doesn't. Because sometimes we can all get very excited about a player. Doesn't mean they're going to be able to adapt to the first team level. But there's certainly a fair few young talented players in that setup right now. And I think our loan watch next season is going to be interesting. I think we're going to see a lot of young players making their first steps into senior football.
Yeah, I think that is the next step for a lot of them. And I think quite a few of them probably will get a chance in pre-season. That's
Yeah.
always the case at Spurs. A number of the youngsters always, make the trip abroad. And yeah, it's just about getting that opportunity and making your case to the manager. And I think what's probably going to play into the hands of a few this summer is there's a handful of Tottenham's players who are going to be playing at the Copa America and at Euro 2024. So you just not entirely sure when exactly they'll be coming back, because it's going to depend on when their country gets knocked out, and then they'll have 3-week break as usual, is it around that mark after the final game? So some could be returning in early August. So there's got to be some gaps in the squad. And yeah, I think some of the youngsters, such as like Tyrese Hall, Mikey Moore, I think Will Lancashire, surely you got to have a look at him this summer. There's got to be opportunities there for them to take.
Yeah, you would think so. You would think so. And yeah, the two UK friendlies that we're going to discuss a little bit later, I think, are a prime opportunity early in the pre-season to get a good look at these players. And yeah, some of the younger ones, Tyrese Hall. I suppose Wayne Burnett talking about Tyrese Hall. You can see there's a player there. Just keep an eye on what he does. I was so impressed with him in that under-21s final, as we were in the Melbourne friendly as well. But watching him back among a lot of older players as well, because he is only 18 years old, and there are a few kind of younger players in the opposition. Sorry, older players in the opposition as well. So comfortable on the ball. And again, this is got to be very wary of this after Pochettino compared Marcus Edwards to Lionel Messi, but there's a trait in the way that Tyrese Hall turns with the ball that made me think a bit Dembele, Ndombele way. He's got this lovely ability to just swivel with the ball and know where and like a radar, knowing where everyone is around him. And he's added goals and assists to his game this season as well. So, yeah, I wouldn't be stunned if we see quite a bit of him getting game time in pre-season. And then, as we said, Europa League, some of these games they'll have, this is a great opportunity. We've seen it in the previous years when they've been in Europa League, of having players on that bench that can maybe get some minutes. It's it's where it started for Harry Kane as well. Harry Kane in European competition, that was where his early minutes came for the club.
Yeah, right. Loan players then, quite a few to talk about. We'll start with Luka Vuskovic, whose season has come to an end in Poland. Really good loan spell with Radomiak Radom, having made the move from Hajduk Split in January. 14 appearances, 3 goals, and 1 assist. I think he's showcased in those 14 games, why he's so highly rated, and a number of clubs in Europe were after his signature before Tottenham made the move. I think, it showcased week in, week out just how good the defender he is, how good he is on the ball at bringing it out of the back line, and then also having that impact in the final third just due to his aerial ability. I think he scored 2 headers. I think in one of the games he went close to a hat-trick of headers. I think he hit the bar twice. So yeah, he's going to be some play for Spurs in the future, and I think now it's just about getting the right move for him next season.
Yeah, talking about big units as a 17-year-old, he's a massive guy. He's physically, I don't think the Premier League is going to be a big stretch for him in that regard, if he's going to be that kind of broad and tall at 17 years old. And it was actually a really interesting article in it's Weslow, which is presumably a Polish media outlet, because we've got to be honest, we don't get a lot of exposure to Polish football here, and how the Extra League gets on, and seeing other than little clips that we see on the internet. But this was a really kind of positive piece that was out there about his 14 appearances he's made for Radomiak, and 3 goals, 1 assist. And they kind of said, yeah, he makes mistakes because he's a young player. He makes a few, like a couple of them. But on the whole, they've just been shocked at how high a level he is at 17 years old. And he's not even like an old 17, is he? I don't think he turned 17 that long ago. He's the issue for them now is that they wanted to keep him for another season, because why wouldn't you? But yeah, Spurs need to get his like the points up in terms of the required points for a work permit that he requires, and apparently the Polish league is at the lower end of the points you can get. I think the article said he needs 15 points to get the Home Office to give him a work permit when he comes in 2025. So it's likely he's going to have to go to Belgium or the Netherlands next season, which is like the highest points yielding countries for anyone trying to get those under their belt. But it's a really interesting article. I know obviously you're going to do a little piece on him today as well, which I'm sure will refer to a lot of these things. And yeah, he's kind of high up there in the stats in the league for various stuff like headers and aerial duels and blocking, shots from the other team, and yeah, I think he's been called up to Croatian under-21s as well, which for someone who's just recently or not too long ago turned 17, that's not a bad little kind of jump up the levels as well. So yeah, very exciting player. Again, we talk about that defence that's being built there and the very talented centre backs, and that's not even taking into account a player like that who's going to be at the club next year. And you've got Ashley Phillips, who's had a terrific season as well at Plymouth, or half season at Plymouth, and how well he's done. So, and they're going to bring in another centre back. There's going to be a lot of options in those centre back roles by the time kind of the start of the season, the spring comes around. So. Yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool. And then I guess you get into debate again. Are you blocking players' pathways by bringing another centre back in?
Maybe. But if these players are that good, then they are going to, get the minutes themselves, aren't they? So
Absolutely.
This is what you want. Just bringing in good players. It just provides good competition, and hopefully the levels increase, and that only bodes well for the club going forward.
Exactly.
On the subject of, a potential loan move to the Netherlands, Troy Parrott, I mean, that prime example of someone who's gone to the Eredivisie this season and just excelled for Excelsior Rotterdam. He has been in amongst the goals in the past few weeks. The regular league season might have come to an end, but because Excelsior finished, I think it was 16th out of 18th in the Eredivisie, they're involved in the playoffs with the next division down to see who, gets a place in the Eredivisie for next season. They beat Den Haag in the semi-finals over 2 legs. Troy got a hat-trick in the home leg, and now they're in the final against NAC Breda. Troy scored again, a penalty, 6-2 defeat. They do have home advantage. I mean, that's going to take something special, to turn it around. But, Sheffield Wednesday did it against Peterborough, didn't they, when they were 4-0 down in the playoffs. So never say never. No,
this is true. I'm so happy for Troy Parrott. He's such a talented young striker. But again, another one, this is exactly what we spoke about earlier. There's such a buzz around these young players. And, we are as guilty as anyone of kind of report. I guess just the fact that we report on these young players, maybe people think, right, give them a chance now, and the spotlight goes all on them. And sometimes, again, sorry to keep referring back to him, but a certain Harry Kane, it takes a while sometimes for players to really find their place within the game and to hit their stride in development or whatever. And for Troy to have gone to the Eredivisie, and he's got 14 goals and 5 assists in his 28 league games this season, which is just brilliant. I've seen some people actually trying to do that down and saying, in a league like that, that's rubbish. And it's like, they're 16th. He's done that for the 16th place team in the league, the third from bottom team in the league. Imagine what those numbers would be like if he was at a Feyenoord or an Alkmaar and Ajax or someone like that. He would be just right up there. And it's no coincidence that the big clubs in the Netherlands are now looking at him and saying, can we do a deal for him? Because this kid's going to be a biggie. Not only is he going to be able to score us loads of goals in this league, but we'll probably get a massive fee for him if he continues to do what he's doing. There's clubs in Italy looking at him, clubs in the Championship looking at him as well. My fear is, and look, Troy's biggest thing, I've spoken to him before in interviews and spoken to people that know him, his biggest thing is he wants to make it at Spurs. He really is desperate. He's been at the club since, what was he, 15? It's like 7 years or something. I think he's been there a long time kind of thing. He's 22 now. They signed him from Belvedere in Ireland when he was, really kind of young academy football. And his dream really is to be a Tottenham Hotspur player. He's got I think it's 3-4 appearances for the club. I don't think the last one of those was probably was ages ago, probably maybe when he was a teenager, because he's been out on so many season-long loans.
Was it under Jose?
Was it the
maybe?
Norwich FA Cup game?
It probably was. I can't think of
Absolutely slaughtered him, didn't
many other games.
they?
After that, was he involved in the Pacos de Ferreira game when Nuno was out, or was he already out on loan by that
I feel
point?
like he'd already gone on loan. Was that the Millwall loan?
That was probably the MK Dons one.
MK Dons, sorry, yes,
it
that
might
was
have
MK
been.
Dons. Yes, Millwall was the season before, wasn't it? Yeah, I just don't feel like he might get that chance this summer, which is a shame, because I think he's got so much about him. I would love to just see him playing even just the first couple of friendlies and just get him to look at him. But also, if you're looking at it as a club, is this the point when maybe he's got a year left in his deal? There's an option for another. Do you maybe think, well, right now we could get a pretty decent fee for him and include a sell-on fee and maybe some kind of buyback clause and let him go out there, and then we look at him in the future? What do you think?
Tough one, really, what happens with him. You'd like to think he gets a chance in pre-season to show what he can do. I think he moves this summer permanently.
Yeah,
has an opportunity somewhere else, and fingers crossed, takes it with both hands and can take his Excelsior Rotterdam form forward, and just keep on hitting the next level. Yeah, I was just looking at his last Spurs appearance, and you're right, it was the Norwich one. It was that season, 2019-20. He got 4 appearances in all comps. Norwich one was the last one.
Do you remember what Jose said after he missed the penalty? He's like, and that's why you don't pick a young player. It's like, oh my God, why would you go in on him after he's missed a penalty? I felt so sorry for him.
Yeah, I probably think it's probably just the right time maybe for both parties to go their separate ways, I think.
Yeah, I think he'll be one of those that we'll look back on and think like, oh, what, he's done very well for himself, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think for him, he just needs to be playing week in, week out. And let's be honest, he's not going to get that at Spurs at the moment anyway. So, yeah, I think this summer, a permanent exit. And Spurs should be able to bring in a decent amount of money for him.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be good. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. It's not, the Netherlands league. It's not going to wash with money if that is where he ends up going. But certainly, I think with a player like Troy, you kind of backload it with a load of potential incentives to the future, and like I say, a sell-on clause and maybe even a buyback one as well if he does become the striker that we all kind of hope he's going to be. Very technical ability is brilliant, and that's why I don't think it's any shock that he's suiting in the European game. He looks very comfortable.
Right, someone else we'll speak about, someone you've certainly got high hopes for, Lucas Bergvall. His last game for Djurgården is coming up this weekend on Sunday at home to Hammarby. Last weekend, I think everyone has probably seen the 2 goals he scored away at Mjällby. They were doing the rounds on social media. One of them, excellent volley from the edge of the box. He's going to be linking up with Ange Postecoglou's first team on July the 1st, which is 1 month away now. Everyone's got high hopes for him coming into the season. Yeah,
it was funny. On the same night, we had the Troy Parrott hat-trick. The first of those goals was a beauty as well. It was like a running chip from a tight angle. And then at the same time, we had Lucas Bergvall's absolutely beautifully struck volley into the bottom corner for Djurgården. And it was just little paradox, I guess, of one player, 22, considered like a wonder kid when he was younger, who maybe is coming towards the end of his Tottenham time. And now you've got the next wonder kid who's at that kind of that age, 18 or just turned 18, where Troy was, and is doing big things for his club. And yes, Hammarby this weekend is his last game, signing off at home. He told me when I went out to Sweden a couple of weeks back, he said it'll be that. Then he's heading off with the Sweden under-21s. They're going to play against, I think it's England and Croatia in a couple of games. And then, he's got 2 to 3 weeks off. He said he's heading off with his girlfriend and his family on vacation to rest up, because otherwise he's going to have like a year of playing football because of the way the 2 seasons have synced up. And he did kind of have a bit of joke with me. He's like, I'm going to have 2 pre-seasons. It's like most people get 1. And the Swedish pre-season is long. It's like a 4-month pre-season to get them ready. I think they start in January and the season starts in April. So yeah, he's physically going to be in great shape, just as long as he's not knackered by the end of the season. But you would imagine he's not going to play every single minute to begin with. But what I would say, I think he's one of those players, a little bit like Dele, where we kind of maybe expect him to have a bit more of a gradual start, but actually he impresses so much, he probably gets a few more minutes than we even expected. And then, hey, I'm not saying he's going to play as much as Dele did, but if he could get towards that, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, for me, I think there's going to be a huge jump going from the Swedish league to the Premier League. So I think for me, it might be a bit more of a gradual impact, a bit slower, but we'll see how he does in pre-seasons. I think
pre-season's key. Yeah.
Of course it is. I think if you go back to like Martin Odegaard when he was, making a huge name for himself in Norway, went to Real Madrid. I think a few were probably expecting him, to excel there, be in the first team, quite soon, and that just wasn't the case for him. And he had to go on a number of loan moves, and then he was finally at Arsenal, where he's just been on another level since. So yeah, with Bergvall, I think everyone's got big expectations that he's going to become a big player for Spurs, but he might not be right away. I think just got to be patient with him. You've got to remember, 18 years old, coming to a new country, has to develop and get used to the Premier League's demands. But yeah, I think there's a very good player there.
Yeah, the people around him said, who know him very well, said give him, they reckon, about 6 months is kind of the adaptation period for him. They said with the ball, no issues whatsoever. And with his thought and his thinking and what to do with the ball, no issues. It will be the pace of the game. And that's the bit that we don't really know how he'll deal with it until probably those early friendlies. And yeah, it is a big leap. I get that. But I just think technically, I think Postecoglou is going to love him and what he's able to do. And for his number 8 roles, as he adapts, he's going to be the perfect fit for it.
Yep. Someone else we want to speak about before we move on to the UK friendlies coming up in July, Mikey Moore. He's excelling for the under-17s, isn't he, at the moment in the Euros. Scored a very good goal. He scored a couple of very good goals, to be honest, hasn't he? One bit of a weaving run and then another one curling the ball into the top corner from the edge of the box. I think everyone wants him to be in and around the first team next season.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It really is. Funnily enough, when I was in at Bromma Poikana talking to the people there that had helped develop Lucas Bergvall, we were talking about the European Under-17 Championships, and they were telling me about various players that they've got there and players that they've developed and Swedish players. And I was like, keep an eye on Mikey Moore. And they were like, who? I said, it's Mikey Moore. He's this young player that plays for Tottenham. He's going to be going there. Keep an eye on him. And they were like, oh, okay, we will. And it's like, it's not like they're going to sign him or anything. So I wasn't like giving any trade secrets away. But yeah, I would like to think that they might think, oh yeah, that weird bloke that came over from England, the reporter guy, he was right, wasn't he? Because I think he's got 3 or 4 goals already in the tournament. And these aren't against like minnows. He's been doing it against the likes of Spain and France and people like that. Yeah, fantastic for him. And Callum Olazazi as well is out there and coming off the bench. I think he got an assist maybe in the last game. I think he's contributed as well. So yeah, very exciting. He's a very excited young player. He is still a very young. Well, he's a boy. That's the thing. He's 16 years old. I was sat opposite him a couple of weeks back when I was doing some work after the press conference. He was chatting away with some of his mates, and it was watching a 16-year-old boy laugh around with his mates. They were talking about pranks they were playing with their lockers. Someone had done something to one of their lockers in the academy building, and physically he's a taller lad, I would say, but I wouldn't say, he's got the frame of a 16-year-old. That's a part of him that clearly is going to have to be developed. And it will naturally with age. That's the whole point. But yeah, he's an exciting lad. And I love the fact that, when he came on in his last appearance, it was just pointing around and telling players where to go and what to do, even though he's 16. I love that. That shows you the confidence he's got. But like I say, his exposure to playing against adults is minimal. It's so minimal. So again, we've got to see, we talk about someone like Lucas Bergvall. Lucas Bergvall has been playing, regardless of what you want to make of the level. I think he made his first team debut at 15, maybe. I feel like it was that young. So he has had quite a few years of actually experience of playing against adults and men and people that, let's be honest, want to batter and tackle the hell out of him because he's like going to live the dream that they maybe always wanted. And he admitted that's kind of what's happened this season. There's been a fair few rough tackles on him. Mikey has to experience all of that. He's a young man that's going to have very experienced defenders and midfielders trying to take him out of games and block in his path and everything. But he's very exciting. He's very talented. And we'll see kind of what minutes he gets over this season, bits and pieces. And again, like you said with Lucas Bergvall, people have just got to be patient, I think.
Yep. Could be a couple of opportunities there in July. Tottenham have announced their 2 UK friendlies this week. First up, Wednesday, July the 17th, Spurs are heading to Edinburgh. So Ange Postecoglou returning to Scotland. They'll be playing Hearts at Tynecastle, 7 p.m. kickoff on that Wednesday evening. Then 3 days later, Spurs back in the capital in West London this time. QPR at Loftus Road Stadium, 3 p.m. kickoff. And then after that is Vissel Kobe in Japan, Bayern Munich in South Korea. There's going to be another game in South Korea before that.
Yep.
And then another game against Bayern Munich at home at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Homecoming for Harry Kane and Eric Dyer. So busy pre-season so far.
Yeah, and I think there'll be more games, probably like training ground, behind closed doors stuff put in there as well. There always is. I think 5 friendlies in all is normally the amount you would do. I like the fact there's a couple of UK ones. While I think it's always cool to kind of take the game abroad, it's nice to also see, like I say, the likes of Lucas Bergvall getting to experience a game against a QPR championship team, getting experience against Hearts, and also a Scottish-English games, even though they're friendlies, there's a little bit more tempo. I mean, the Rangers one was it a couple of years back. There was a decent noise to that. There was a bit of oomph to it as well, and I think that's important for these players. So yeah, looking forward to those. Do you know who scored the last goal for QPR against Spurs last time they played? I'll give you a clue just to help you. Otherwise, it could be anyone. It was a former Spurs player.
Tarabt?
Nope.
What? Zamora?
Nope. It was Brazilian.
Sandro?
Correct. The last time, 2015, in the Premier League, Harry Kane scored twice. They won 2-1, and Sandro scored the goal for QPR.
Wow. Right.
There you go.
Yeah, just having a look at Spurs' fixtures from this season, just gone for in pre-season, played 4 friendlies, should have been 5 because there was that one that was postponed due to the weather. So, yeah, Spurs going to have 6 games on the agenda this summer. So, yeah, plenty of game time for players ahead of the 24-25 campaign.
That's what you need. And the Hearts one's nice as well. It's a bit of a Dave Mackay derby. It's very much a club where he was close to the hearts of a lot of people and was such a huge player for both clubs, in the 50s and 60s. So, yeah, that'd be very cool. Very cool indeed. A lot of work to be done this pre-season. They've got big plans. Postecoglou has, and a lot of that work will be done in those matches and on the training pitches of Hotspur Way.
Yep. Right, I think we'll call that a day for today's latest episode of Gold Guest Talk Tottenham. We'll be back early next week to review the 23-24 season, because I think the initial plan was to do it today, but there's been plenty to discuss anyway. So as ever, just keep with us at football.london for all your latest Tottenham news. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/goldguest. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, and you'll help support our podcast. The link is in the episode description box.